Jurors in the Delphi murders trial forced to see in graphic detail what happened to Abby Williams and Libby German in February of 2017 along the Monon High Bridge trail. But these jurors weren't the only ones in court. The startling crime scene images drew tears from the girls' mothers who were seated nearby. Thanks for inviting us in tonight. It's 11 o'clock. It is really hard to imagine Abby and Libby's parents and loved ones having to watch all of this unfold. Richard Allen is charged tonight with killing those two teen girls. Today, investigators on the stand. Their testimonies taking the people in the courtroom to the wooded area where the girls' bodies were found. All day, the first investigators on the scene and a detective walked jurors through what they found in the woods near Delphi the day Abby Williams and Libby German were found. Jurors saw 117 photos, half of them extremely graphic. We want to caution you, it's hard to even hear some of these details. 13 news reporters who were in the court say some jurors and family members were visibly shaken. The pictures showed the injuries to both girls' throats, blood on both of the girls. Detectives described a very bloody area around them. Officers explained they found sticks on and around the bodies, but one testified that 3 officers decided those sticks had no evidentiary value and set them aside. Then explained that days later, he was told to go back and get the sticks. He took crime scene photos with him to identify the correct sticks. The defense has maintained, but is not allowed to bring up, that the sticks indicate the deaths were part of a ritualistic sacrifice. The defense also pushed back on how investigators collected a bullet cartridge from the scene. One prosecutors say matches a gun owned by Richard Allen. The defense asked investigators how the bullet cartridge was handled and why there are no pictures or video showing it being removed from the crime scene. They suggested to the jury that there were lapses in the chain of custody to protect the integrity of that evidence. Abby and Libby's families knew what they would see today. One of Libby's grandparents told our Bob Siegel they first saw those crime scene photos Saturday to help them prepare for today. Our Chase Howell has been talking with our legal analyst tonight. So what did she say, Chase?
Yeah, she said today we really heard from Allen's attorneys of really building their case. And she also mentions key moments where the defense is really trying to poke holes in the prosecution's case. Inside a Carroll County courtroom Monday, jurors along with the families of Abby Williams and Libby German were shown those crime scene photos from the day the girls were found murdered. The state calling 4 witnesses to the stand, each one being cross-examined by the defense. That's when 13 News' legal analyst Katie Jackson-Lindsay says we began to see Richard Allen's team challenging the evidence presented by the prosecution, mainly by their line of questioning.
Another example would be the sticks that were found on one of the victims' bodies. They really highlighted that, 1, that was a piece of evidence that was found, and 2, that it wasn't originally collected. And they even got the witness to admit that they didn't collect it initially because they didn't think that it was pertinent, but someone eventually must have thought it was pertinent because they went back to get it later.
Jackson-Lindsay says the defense also entered several pieces of evidence. She says this is interesting for 2 reasons. 1, because it's not up to the defense to build a case. That's for the prosecution to do. And 2, Jackson-Lindsay says, is because they're trying to drive their point home to the jury.
When you see the defense admitting photos either that the state has already admitted a second time, or if they're admitting photos that the state did not admit, that really says to the jury, we need you to focus your attention on this particular angle that maybe the state didn't show you, which is letting them know that there's something else that they really want to highlight.
Reporting, Chase Howell, 13 News.
So the defense team sarcastically refers to the state's magic bullet. That'll become a central focus of this trial, and we'll certainly hear more about that in the coming days. One other important note today involves recordings from Libby's cell phone. That likely includes this audio and video. The defense team wants to set up guidelines about how this video can be shown and what investigators can say about it. They don't want it played on a loop. and they don't want witnesses to identify the words and sounds on these recordings. The defense wrote, it is up to the jury to determine what words or sounds exist on the recordings. The last officer on the witness stand today returns tomorrow for cross-examination. The judge in the case cautioned jurors that the rest of this week will be difficult. And be sure to watch our Delphi debrief show over on WTHR+. This is an in-depth look at this trial. Bob Siegel, Emily Longnecker, and our legal expert are breaking down the major developments from the courtroom weeknights at 10 p.m. You can stream the show on demand on WTHR+ right now. It's our free streaming app. You can get it on Apple TV, Amazon Fire Stick, and Roku.